There comes a time in every life when the truth becomes undeniable, and it is this: no one is coming to save you, no one is going to appear one day and change your circumstances. No one is going to wake you up at dawn and tell you it's time to chase your dreams. No one is going to hand you the life imagined when you were a child. That job belongs to you and only you. And though that may sound heavy, it is also the most empowering truth you will ever embrace, because once you realize that your growth is your responsibility, you unlock a level of strength that can't be taken away by circumstance, other people. You must become obsessed with your growth, because everything you want in life begins with who you become in the process. To get it, it's not about one breakthrough, it's about the commitment to evolve, to stretch, to push past who you were yesterday and step into the person you are meant to be. And you can't do that by staying comfortable. You can't do that by waiting for the right time, the perfect mood, or someone's permission. You do it by waking up each day and deciding again and again that your future is worth more than your fear and your goals are worth more than your excuses. Nobody can want it for you more than you want it for yourself. And if they do, it still won't be enough, because growth is an inside job. You are the one who must choose to rise, choose to heal, choose to work, even when it feels hard, even when it feels lonely, especially when no one claps, especially when no one sees, because it is in those moments when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when the path feels dark and unclear, that you define who you really are and what you are really made of. Becoming obsessed with your growth means asking yourself hard questions every day, means letting go of the comfort of old habits and embracing the chaos that comes with change. It means shedding old identities that kept you safe but small, and allowing yourself to dream bigger than your past limitations. It means replacing complaining with action, replacing blame with ownership, replacing waiting with doing. Because every second spent hoping someone will show up and fix your life is a second stolen from the future. You could be building, you do not need to be perfect. You only need to be committed, committed to showing up for yourself. No matter how many times you fall, committed to standing again after each setback, committed to believing that the next version of you is worth fighting for, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when you have no clear answers, because that commitment to growth is the foundation of transformation. It is the fire that forges resilience and the compass that leads you out of every dark chapter. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. If you're waiting for someone to say you're worthy, this is it. If you're waiting to be chosen, start by choosing yourself. You don't need saving, you need awakening. You need to remember that everything you need already exists within you. The strength, the courage, the clarity, it's there waiting to be claimed. Not by wishing, but by doing, not by dreaming alone, but by becoming the person who takes aligned action every single day. Let this be the day you stop hoping someone will build your ladder and you begin building your own step by step, moment by moment. Because growth is not something that happens to you, it is something you create from the inside out. And once you realize that no one is coming to save you, you also realize you don't need them to, because you were born to rise all on your own. Becoming obsessed with your growth begins with a shift in mindset, a realization that you can no longer afford to live your life on autopilot, hoping that things will magically get better without your involvement. It's about understanding that the version of you who wants to evolve, who wants more, who wants peace, success, clarity, and fulfillment, cannot be built by staying in the same patterns, the same mindset, and the same circle of comfort that kept you small. Growth is not something that gently lands on your doorstep. It's something you must chase with conviction, something you must wake up and commit to, like your life depends on it, because it does. The quality of your life depends entirely on your willingness to do the work on yourself when no one else is asking you to. There is a difference between wanting more and being willing to grow into the person who can handle more, and that difference lies in obsession, not a shallow momentary interest, but a deep burning commitment to become better, to think sharper, to speak truth, to live with integrity, and to rise beyond the limits you once accepted as normal. Obsession is what separates those who dream, those who become, and if you want to become, then you must stop negotiating with your weaknesses. Stop delaying your transformation until you feel ready and start acting like the person you're trying to become, even if no one else sees your potential yet. When you become obsessed with your growth, stop chasing distractions. You stop trying to fill the void with things that numb you, and instead, you start leaning into the discomfort that shapes you. You read the books, you have the honest conversations with yourself. You remove yourself from environments that keep you stagnant. You stop complaining about the pain of growth and begin respecting it, because pain is often the signal that you're stretching beyond what you've known. Pain is often the teacher that shows you where the work still needs to be done. And instead of fearing that, you welcome it, you learn from it, and you use it. You also begin to see time differently. You stop wasting days and weeks waiting for motivation, and you start moving because discipline has taken over you. Move because your future self deserves a present self that is willing to fight for them. You move because staying still is no longer an option. Mediocrity feels like a betrayal to your own potential when you become obsessed with your growth. You start living with a standard that others may not understand, but you don't need them to, because this is your journey and they are not meant to carry the weight of your vision. Obsession with growth does not mean you never rest. It means you rest with purpose. You recover with intention. You listen to yourself and treat your well-being as the foundation, not the reward. You understand that growth is not just about grinding harder, it's about aligning deeper. It's about choosing what matters every single day and letting go of what does not serve you anymore, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when it's unfamiliar. Because anything worth having requires the courage to leave behind what's no longer working. And through all of this, you begin to transform, not just on the outside, within you. Start to think differently, speak differently, walk differently, and the world begins to reflect that back to you. Slowly at first, then all at once, because your outer life always catches up to your inner decisions. And that is why becoming obsessed with your growth is not selfish, essential. It's the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and the most powerful message you can send to the world: that you will not settle, that you will not shrink, and that you will never again wait for someone else to come and deliver the life you know. You were born to live. You are building a step by step from the inside out, and that is the work that changes everything. Becoming obsessed with growth is not a motivation, it is not an inspiration. It is a lifestyle. It is a decision you make every single morning before the world has the chance to define your mood, your focus, or your value. It is the quiet agreement between who you are now and who you are determined to become. And the path between the two is paved with habits, consistency, and a fire inside that refuses to go out even when everything around you tries to dim it. Growth is not about becoming someone new, it's about returning to the person you were always meant to be before. Fear, disappointment, and distraction pulled you away from your true potential. There is something raw and honest about this process because it requires you to face yourself with no filter, no excuses, no one else to blame. It forces you to confront where you've held back, where you've settled, where you've lied to yourself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know what you're capable of, even in just a glimpse, it becomes impossible to be satisfied with anything less. That is where obsession begins, not with ego, not with comparison, but with a deep knowing that there is more inside you, and it's your job to bring it to the surface, no matter how long it takes, no matter how uncomfortable it becomes. When you live in this space, everything changes. Your standards rise, your circle changes, your language shifts, your routine gets tighter, not because someone told you to do it, but because you've tasted growth. And now average doesn't feel right anymore. You start to notice what drains you, what feeds you, what elevates your mind, and what poisons it, and little by little, you start building a life that reflects your inner commitment to progress. You no longer tolerate relationships that pull you backward. You no longer engage in habits that numb your hunger for more, and you no longer apologize for the fact that you're focus driven and unwilling to remain who you used to be. The truth is, most people won't understand this kind of obsession. They will tell you to relax, slow down, enjoy the moment, and sometimes they will even mock your intensity. But what they don't see is the pain you've turned into power, the setbacks you've turned into strategy, the sleepless nights you've turned into growth. They don't see the price you've paid to become this version of yourself. So you don't need their approval and you don't owe them an explanation. This path is yours and yours alone. You must be relentless, not just in your actions but in your mindset, because the real enemy is not the external world. It's the voice inside that tells you to quit, that tells you you're not enough, that tells you to settle. But if you can quiet that voice and replace it with the truth, with a daily commitment to keep going even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing is changing. That is when the shift begins. That is when you start moving differently, thinking differently, and creating results that reflect the depth of your work. And above all, you realize this journey is not about proving anything to anyone else. It's about honoring the gift of life you've been given by refusing to waste it. Being small, it's about becoming the example, not just the dreamer. It's about walking with such focus and strength that others feel safe to grow around you because they see in you what's possible for them too. And if you can stay true to this obsession with growth, you can protect it like the treasure it is. Then nothing and no one will be able to stop the person you are becoming. Because you're not waiting for change, you're creating it with every breath, every decision, and every step forward. There will come a point in your life when you realize that every is growth. You want to experience every dream you want to live, every level of peace and success you crave is entirely up to you. And that realization can either break you or build you depending on what you do next. Because once you understand that no one is coming to fix it for you, no one is show up with the answers or the perfect opportunity, it becomes clear that this journey is your responsibility and yours alone. And in that moment, you either shrink from the weight of that truth, or you rise up and become everything you were waiting for. It is in that choice that your entire life shifts. Becoming obsessed with your growth is a daily decision to reject comfort and choose purpose. It's about waking up every single day and asking yourself, what can I do to get 1% better? How can I stretch? How can I challenge myself? How can I hold myself accountable for the future want because the life you're dreaming of isn't sitting on a shelf waiting to be handed to you. It's hidden inside every decision you make today and every decision you make tomorrow. And the only way to reach it is to build it brick by brick with your discipline, your commitment, and your unshakable belief that you are worth the effort. No one is going to knock you for your goals or your mindset, and no one is going to clean up the mess of the past. You're still here unless you decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than the discomfort of change. And the moment you take that responsibility fully, not halfway, not conditionally, but fully, you take your power back, and that power is what fuels your growth. Because now you are no longer waiting, you are working. Now you are no longer hoping, you are doing. This obsession with growth doesn't mean you're never tired or discouraged. It means you show up anyway. It means you value the process more than the applause. It means you're more interested in building something real than appearing perfect, because you understand that growth is not always pretty and progress is not always visible, but what matters is that you are moving, that you are learning, and that you are becoming more aligned with the version of yourself you were always meant to embody. You start paying attention to how you speak to yourself. You start protecting your time like it's gold. You start choosing environments that support your rise, not your excuses, and you start saying no, not because you're selfish, but because your focus is sacred and your future matters too much to keep giving it away to things that drain you or distract you. Doing so, you begin to attract different energy. You start to build momentum, and that momentum becomes a quiet force that carries you through the days you want to give up. Because deep down, you know this work is building something no one can take from you. When you are obsessed with growth, you asking for permission to change. You stop waiting for people to understand your journey. You stop needing validation from people who haven't done the work you're doing. And instead, you find strength in your solitude, clarity in your discomfort, and purpose in your persistence. And while others may not see the transformation right away, you will feel it in your thoughts, in your actions, and in the way you handle every challenge that comes your way. Because the truth is, you don't grow by accident, and you don't become extraordinary by doing what's easy. You grow by choice, by showing up again and again for yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when it would be easier to quit, because something inside you knows that the greatest thing you will ever do is become the person you were always capable of being. And that is a journey worth becoming obsessed with every single day. Become obsessed with your growth is the single most important decision you will ever make, because everything in your life will either rise or fall based on how committed you are to evolving. And when you truly decide to grow, not just once, but every day, in every situation, in every challenge, you begin to see that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You are not the victim of your circumstances, you are the creator of your outcomes. And the moment you choose to take full responsibility for your path is the moment everything begins to shift. You don't get stronger by wishing for better days, you get stronger by learning how to show up on the hard ones and keep going anyway. You don't become more by avoiding failure, you become more by facing it, learning from it, and continuing forward with a deeper understanding of who you are and what you're made of. Growth is not a destination, it's a process. It is a mindset. It is the decision to live wide awake, to no longer be numb to your life, and to no longer settle for what is, when you know what could be.
When you become obsessed with your growth, you stop asking small questions. You stop living in circles. You stop waiting for someone else to come along and push you into your potential. And instead, you begin to challenge yourself. You begin to ask, what do I need to unlearn? What do I need to let go of? What beliefs are no longer serving the future? I say, I want, because that's what growth really is. It's not just adding more, it's clearing out what doesn't belong. It's being honest about the ways you've held yourself back and having the courage to change the pattern. It's not easy, but it is worth it. And the truth is that once you experience even a small taste of real growth, even a glimpse of who you are when you're aligned, focused, unapologetically, becoming, you will never want to go back to the version of you that was hiding, playing small, or pretending to be someone else to make others comfortable. You will begin to walk different, talk different, think different, and live different, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've decided that being fully you is the most powerful thing you can offer this world. And people will notice. They may not always understand, but they will feel it. They will feel the way you hold your boundaries, the way you show up with presence, the way you speak truthfully without fear, and most of all, the way you protect your peace and your purpose, like your life depends on it, because it does. Your growth affects everything: your relationships, your finances, your mental health, your physical well being, your ability to lead, your ability to love, and your ability to heal. And the way to elevate any of those areas is to elevate yourself first. So if you want more out of life, if you want to be proud of the person in the mirror, if you want to leave a legacy that actually means something, then you must make your growth a priority. Not sometimes, not when it's easy, not when others are cheering you on, but especially when it's hard, especially when it's quiet, especially when no one is watching, because those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments where the real work happens, and those are the moments that will carry you when the world feels heavy and uncertain. Only question is, how bad do you want it? Because when you want your growth more than you want to be liked, more than you want comfort, more than you want to be understood, you will become unstoppable. You will build momentum. You will attract alignment. And you will become a force in your own life. That is the moment when you stop living by default and start living by design, by choice, by power, and by purpose. And that kind of life is worth fighting for every single day. Becoming obsessed with your growth means refusing to live life asleep. It means breaking out of the cycle of going through the motions and starting to engage with every moment as an opportunity to evolve, to rise, to step into a better version of yourself. No one gets handed transformation. No one stumbles into excellence by accident. Growth is a conscious, relentless choice, and the moment you make it your priority is the moment everything in your life begins to shift, not because the outside world magically becomes easier, but because you begin to change from the inside out, and that inner shift alters how you think, how you move, how you react, and how you create your reality. There will always be people who are content to stay the same, people who are comfortable in routines that bring them no joy, people who cling to their excuses more tightly than their dreams. But that cannot be you, not if you've seen even a glimpse of what's possible for your life. Becoming obsessed with growth means you stop living in reaction, start living in intention. You begin to question the patterns that keep repeating and the thoughts that keep you small. You begin to take accountability for every part of your life, not with shame, but with power, because when you take responsibility, you also take control. You no longer wait for someone to push you, you push yourself. You no longer need circumstances to be perfect. You become the person who makes progress anyway. You don't depend on motivation because you have discipline, and you don't chase approval because you are learning to validate yourself every single day. You put in the work because it's fun or glamorous, but because the alternative, staying stuck, settling, shrinking, is no longer an option for you. Growth becomes your lifestyle, your mindset, your mission, and every choice you make starts to reflect that. You learn to sit with discomfort and not run from it, because you understand that discomfort is where change lives. You learn to let go of people who don't support your vision, not out of anger, but out of alignment, because protecting your energy is part of protecting your growth. You stop feeding the habits that numb your potential, and you start feeding the habits that wake you up. Reading, journaling, healing, listening, learning, expanding. You do the hard things, not because you have to, but because you know they are the path to freedom. And along the way, something beautiful happens. You begin to develop a trust in yourself, a confidence that doesn't rely on or praise or perfection, but comes from the simple truth that you are showing up for yourself consistently, and that trust becomes the foundation of everything. It changes how you walk into rooms. It changes how you speak, how you think, how you lead, how you love, and how you handle the inevitable challenges that come your way. Because when you are obsessed with growth, you don't avoid the hard things. You become strong enough to face them.
This is not about being better than anyone else. This is about being better than you were yesterday. This is about honoring the gift of this life by becoming someone who doesn't waste it waiting, hoping, or doubting. This is about recognizing that no one is coming to save you because you were never meant to be saved. You were meant to rise, and that rising begins the moment you decide that growth is not optional. It's essential, and no matter how far you go, no matter how much you grow, you stay humble, hungry, and grounded, because this journey has no finish line, and that's what makes it beautiful. The process never ends, and that's the point. You're not here to arrive, you're here to evolve, to expand, to become everything you're capable of becoming, and only happens when you stop wishing and start working, when you stop blaming and start building, when you stop waiting and start rising from the inside out with everything you've got every single day. When you become obsessed with your growth, you begin to realize that every moment of your life is an opportunity to evolve, to improve, and to become more aware of who you truly are and who you are capable of being. Growth is no longer something you chase when it's convenient. It becomes the way you breathe, the way you think, the way you move through the world. It becomes the lens through which you view every experience, every challenge, every relationship, and every decision. You no longer look at life as something happening outside of you, but as something constantly being shaped by your mindset, your energy, and your commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. Not someday, but now. Not when it's easy, but always. When you are truly obsessed with your growth, you begin to understand that every setback, every disappointment, every closed door is not an ending, but a redirection, an invitation to rise, an opportunity to sharpen your focus and strengthen your resolve. You stop viewing failure as something to fear, and instead you welcome it as part of the process, part of what molds you into someone with resilience, wisdom, and unshakable clarity. You stop hiding from what's uncomfortable and instead walk straight into it, because you know that your next level always requires a deeper level of
you are willing to meet that demand. You become more protective of your space, your energy, your time, because you understand that growth does not happen in chaos and confusion. It happens in clarity. It happens when your priorities are aligned with your purpose. It happens when you let go of what no longer serves you and create room for what nourishes your vision and your peace. You stop tolerating things that drain you because you are no longer operating from survival. You are building from intention, and that means everything that enters your world must support your rise, not distract you from it. As you grow, you begin to move differently. You start paying attention to the words you speak to yourself. You recognize the difference between your inner critic and your inner guide, and you make a choice every day to listen to the voice that believes in you, the voice that reminds you of your power, the voice that pushes you when you want to quit, the voice that says keep going even when no one else sees your progress, because that voice is the one building the foundation of your next season, the voice of the person you're becoming. You don't wait for perfect timing, you create it. Don't look for signs from the outside, you listen to your inner truth, and you act from that place, with confidence and courage, even when it's scary, even when it's uncertain, even when no one understands, because you know that this is your life, and no one else is responsible for how far you go or who you become. You stop asking for permission to grow, and you give yourself full authority to evolve without explanation, without apology, and without compromise. The more obsessed you become with your growth, the more you start to trust yourself, and that trust becomes your superpower, because now you no longer chasing outcomes, you are living in alignment with your values, and that alignment brings peace, direction, and momentum. You are not here to stay the same, you are not here to play small, you are here to grow, to lead, to heal, to create, and to live a life that reflects the depth of who you are. And even on the hard days, even when nothing seems to be going your way, you remember why you started, you remember who you're doing it for, and you remind yourself that this journey is not about perfection, it's about progress. And every step forward, no matter how small, is still a victory. You're not who you used to be, and you're not where you used to be, and that is something worth celebrating, because when you become obsessed with your growth, you don't just change your life, you change your legacy, you become a light for others, and a force for your own future, and that is the kind of power no one can ever take away from you.